Okay, so we're gonna do the Unit 11 lab. And again, this is very much we've been talking about these functions, these cloud-based functions. We're gonna look a little bit and try to create or look at some today for this. So the first thing I want to do is have you look at one of these options for this. And these are just short tutorials. One is from Microsoft Azure, and one is this is from Google Cloud here. Now the Google Cloud ones have been charging, I think. So if I go there and I sign in my Google account. There. Okay, now I'm signed in. I think I have to go to that link again. Right. But I think you can, yeah, it looks like you can start the lab and go through this lab. No, yeah. So yeah, that's the problem we were running into is that it was costing us 1 credit, and right now we don't have any credits for that. I think if you do this one, if you do the second one on the link, I think you can run through that. And that just is some documentation for it. But I actually think we'll be dealing more with Azure. So the Azure one might be the better one to try out and do here. So I'm going to let you just go through this Azure function one, and then we're going to, this is the intro, and then we're going to do this pathway where we're going to explore and develop. And I'm going to help you when we get to the develop one, because that's going to involve some coding optionally there. I'm going to walk through the coding part of it so you can see it. But for now, just start with this intro to Azure functions. And if you get done with that, you can start the explore one and get started with that. Um, Okay, so I'm going to walk through or just the second parts of these a little bit with you. So I'm going to go down and explore these Azure functions. Now, you should be able to do this on your own. You just go here, and it's just this 3-part lessons, pretty standard. And again, one thing I want you to do is I want you to get to the check your knowledge page. So on all of these, there's this module assessment or some check your knowledge page where questions are. So we want to make sure we're reading this, learning enough so we can answer these questions correctly here. And so in this one, there's no exercises. It's just reading. So we'll go through, read about, what these Azure functions are. You probably know that already from the previous one. And then compare Azure functions to some other things, these logic apps here, and these web jobs, and when you can use one or the other here. Then they talk about plans for paying for this. There's a consumption plan, a flex consumption plan, and then some other more complicated plans. The more complicated plans will run it on a container. So that's more like a container version than a function version. They can run on a Linux container, but then they have some additional stuff with them. And they talk about the consumption plan here and the flexible. So the consumption plan is kind of what we've been talking about. You pay for computer resources only when your function is running, pay as you go, automatic scale. Instances of functions are hosted are automatically added and removed depending on what events happen here. And the flex consumption is like that, but more scalable. It provides virtual networking and pay-as-you-go building for that. And then again, some of the more other plans will be running in a dedicated container or something like that. So when you run these functions, they'll keep alive, and then when you run them again, they'll be faster. In a normal consumption plan, they're only around for 5 minutes. So when you run them, if you run them again, if they have 5 minutes, it works. In the flex consumption plan and some of these other ones, they'll be around for up to 30 minutes. So if they keep getting hit again and again, you'll see that running. They have limits on how many of these apps you can run, or how many functions can be run at any one time. With the consumption plan, it is somewhat small. Somewhat small. You can have 200 in Windows or 100 in Linux. So you can have 200 people doing it at the same time. Again, if you're running a huge website and something like that, that's probably not going to, if you have 100 million subscribers, 200 at a time is probably not going to be enough. But for most, smaller things, that'll be a good amount. The Flex one, again, removes that limit. So for that. And yeah, then you can just answer your question, take a picture of that and paste it in here when you're done. I'm going to then go on to this next one, which is a little more advanced, the deploy one. It talks about using triggers and binding triggers to functions and how you develop these things. I'm going to go through this exercise and walk you through that because I don't think you'll be able to do that so much. So you can just read through the exercise instructions and you don't necessarily have to do it. If you want, you can certainly try. But again, it requires a fair amount of coding and using this program called Visual Studio Code, which we haven't learned in this class yet. So I'm just going to walk you through that so you can see that here. So it has some stuff required. So again, Visual Studio Code is installed or is required, and that's actually in the labs here, although online students wouldn't have it. So if I just type in Visual Studio Code, now there's two things. There's Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. I'm going to make sure I run Visual Studio Code here for this. So I'm going to run that. And that's just a coding environment that is quite popular. Okay. So I'm going to run that. Now, it requires .NET 8 is a framework, and that should be installed in these. It requires this Azure function extension for Visual Code over here, and that might not be installed. It's not installed in the lab. If I click on that, I can hit install, and it says you have to install the Visual Code. I'm going to hit install, and here it is. Now, usually it would say update right here. I've already installed it on this particular machine, and so it just says update code, but it's already installed because I just did that before class. So normally you'd have to do that for that. Okay, so those are the oops, I just deleted my web page. Okay, my prereqs. But now, once you got that installed, we're going to create a project. Now, again, I'm just going to show you this, and you can read through these instructions. You don't necessarily have to do it here. So I'm going to move this off to the side. I'm going to move this off to the side. Maybe I'll just drag this to this side of the window and have like that. Okay. So there are commands. There's Windows stuff here, but I can also run commands by just hitting F1 and start typing in things. So they say start typing Azure functions, and I want to create a new project. So Azure function, create a new project here. It's going to ask me where. I'm going to create a new folder. And select that. And then what language, and I'm going to do this in C#. and what framework, and I'm going to choose this .NET isolated long-term support version. It wants a template, and so we're going to do an HTTP trigger template. And then provide a function name. So, and we'll just say HTTP example. A namespace, I usually just change this to css.edu, but again, I'm just going to follow the instructions and it's going to be my .function. That's fine. We're going to run this anonymously and open in the current window. So again, it is creating this new project. I can swatch it down here. It's creating this new project and stuff. And again, we're not going to learn how to do, we're not going to learn how to code there, which I just want you to kind of see what's involved in this. It says there's code we downloaded this template that I did not author. Do you trust them? I guess since this is Microsoft, we'll trust them. I'll say yes there. There's little warnings down here about some updates and stuff like that. I'm going to actually install the C# update. I thought that was installed already, so I didn't install it because that was one of the prereqs. I thought for sure that was installed. So I'm just going to go back to that. Okay. So now here's my next thing. I can run this function locally first, and then I can deploy it to the cloud here. Now we've been talking about terminal windows, and often with a Raspberry Pi, we open up a terminal window, and same is true with VS Code. VS Code is very Unix like, and so it has a terminal window too. I'm going to move this down just a Okay. So I'm going to say view terminal window here, and it'll bring up the terminal window, and then I have a prompt down here. I can type in my commands like ls and Unix or console-like commands there. I'm going to move this up there for that. Okay, so make sure you have a new terminal window here. And then I'm going to open up the terminal panel and run this. So I'm going to hit F5 to run this. Oops, run this window. It said it wasn't installed. I thought I had already installed that Azure functions, but it's doing another install for that. So I'll let that run through. It's always hard. I should try these all out. I try them all out in my office, and then I think, but I have different tools in my office sometimes running. I didn't get a chance to try this out here, so we'll see how this goes. I wasn't so worried about it because again, we're just trying to demonstrate how this works. So while we're waiting, you can be going through the rest of this. So again, we're going to sign into Azure. That's our cloud-based, or I am cloud-based resource. I'm going to create some resources here, and then we're going to deploy our project to the cloud here, and then we can run this in the cloud too. And then you can go through the next steps and stuff, and eventually there's a check your knowledge one in this also. So let's see how we're doing here. Okay, it's supposed to, let me run this again and see. I'm gonna hit, it gave me an error here that there was a problem. I'm gonna run this again and see now that I have everything installed. Oh, it says I must, I'm gonna close this and run this again because sometimes if I install those tools, sometimes that needs to be restarted. Okay, let's try this again. No, interesting. Okay, I'm not going to let this run. Again, there's something wrong with this setup in these labs here. It looks like one of these tools isn't configured right. It also looked like WSL for Windows wasn't installed correctly. So I'm just going to walk you through this. So normally we would run this here. We'd run a command in our command window. It will then tell us our local website and it will display a local website for us to run. And then in our browser window, we can go to that local host with that website and bring up and that will trigger our function to run. Again, we have these background functions here, and so we need a trigger. And so just going to this web address will trigger that to run for us. So that's what we'll do. And it will just display some names on the screen there for us. It's not running a full web server, it's just running some function here. Now, to get this in Azure, we need to sign into Azure. So now over here, yeah, see, that's what I'm also not seeing. So there are different menus over here. The list of files. This is what it's called, source code GitHub. And I'm not seeing the Azure one over here. I'm not sure why not, because again, we're installing that here. But it should allow me to sign into Azure. Let me just sign in here. Now, as a student, you can sign into Azure and get some of the resources for free. I can't because I've already used it, and I'm not a student, even though I have an educational email here. So I'm just going to use an existing account for this. If this actually works. That's interesting. I'm not going to reconfigure Dual because it's already configured. Interesting. Okay, well, that's not going to work either. um, so you would sign into Azure on the cloud here. And then again, we would create resources in Azure for different things for this. So most of these cloud-based resources let you create and deploy resources and then run functions on it. So I'm not going to be able to show you that it looks like. And again, most of the cloud providers work similarly. I'm just going to go, let's see if I have this set up. No, I must have clicked on it. Not working either. Okay, I'm not having great luck today. Okay, so what I want you to do is just go in this lab, go through all the phases of it, read it about creating triggers, creating functions. Again, you can skip this exercise. As you can see, it's not working. And I eventually want you to get to the module assessment and fill out this and submit the answers to that. So I'm going to give you some time to go through that and that done. And then we'll just wrap up the lab and talk about. So make sure you get screenshots of your completed sections to paste into your, make a copy of the lab, paste in your screenshots. So we'll give you about another 10 minutes to do that, and then we'll start working and talking about the final project. Okay, let's talk about the final project a little bit and brainstorm some ideas. We want to show you some of the different hardware we have out there for the project that's available. So I'm going to walk through some descriptions here. We're going to show you some hardware for online students. Again, if there's you can do projects with just your Raspberry Pi with what you have in your project, but you can also sometimes buy inexpensive devices and stuff like that. For example, I'm going to show you in a sec this camera here, and the camera costs, you can get it for $8, $9 on Amazon and things like that. Sometimes, some of these editions are not that expensive, so you can consider if it's something you're really interested in, you could consider just getting it here. So if you go to your project, there's this project idea link. I think the first link was broken. It's linked in this final project guidelines too, so you may have to reload this page, but this should bring up this page with some project ideas here. So we'll walk through them. Now, you're fine. You can also just Google Raspberry Pi projects, and there, Raspberry Pi has a list. Instructables, I don't know if you're familiar with that website, has a list. Here, there's lots of different websites that'll have different lists, and you can just pick one of these and look at some of these options too for this one. So keep that in mind. You can also if you have AI around, you can just go to your favorite AI system and ask it, I just said, what are 10 fun projects I can do with my Raspberry Pi? For each project, provide a description, what additional hardware I might need, and the level of difficulty. So it's just showing me, RetroPie, a home media server, a Pi-hole, a magic mirror display. So let's just walk. So there are these sorts of options. So I'm just going to walk through these, and then we're going to talk about some of the devices. So one is an ad blocker, something called a Pi-hole. It sits in your network, and it kind of like all your web traffic can go through it. So you can configure your rather than going to your wireless router at home or something like that, you would go to this, and this would then talk to your Pi would then talk to your wireless router. And in between, it would filter out all the ads for places like YouTube and websites and stuff like that. So the ads are actually sent to your network, but then they're stopped before they get to your machine for that. So some people appreciate that. Again, it only work with it wouldn't work in school here, but it would work like at your home or your apartment or something like that. I'll just warn you, some of these network ones are a little hard to test out and run on campus, because again, we can't run it here in campus. So if you're going to do something like this, you should have like your own network. You can configure your own Wi-Fi. So maybe if you're in an apartment, or off campus, you can do that. Or if you're, if homes or someplace that you have access to a home network, then you can do that. But and again, online students, it'll be an okay project. But again, if you're just living in the dorms here, this is not the best project. I'll just note it's hard to test. There's home theater. There's a number of different home theater systems that you can run. The idea here is that if you have, the idea is that at some point we had all these DVDs, we had movies on DVDs and stuff, and then people have these DVD collections, and they no longer want to plug them into the DVD player. They might not even have a DVD player anymore, so they may have taken those DVDs, digitized them, and then set up a media center. Or if you have a non-smart TV and you want to turn a non-smart TV into a smart TV and streaming and stuff like that, and your paid subscriptions, you can do some of that. So there are different options as far as home theater systems with a Raspberry Pi here for this. There are different options as far as portable computing goes. One is you can run Kindle is an ebook service, so if you don't have a Kindle, you can use that. We have a portable computer. Can you hold up the little screen that's right in front of you here? Take it out of the, yeah. So that is just a little screen, and it has a case for a Raspberry Pi in the back there. So you don't have to do something like that. But again, we have one of these. If you want to do some sort of portable computer solution, we have something like that that you can run. There are different Raspberry Pi kits, car kits here. Let's see. These tend to be a little more expensive here, but you can run your Raspberry Pi on these here. And we've got one somewhere. So yes, we've got one set up. It's got a little camera and stuff there. We have some instructions for that. So if you want to do that, you can run one of those also here. Probably the most popular option is this retro gaming option. There's a number of different emulators you can run here. RetroPie is probably the most well-known and easiest to set up and run there. And we have lots of joysticks. You want to show some joysticks? We have traditional joysticks, not controllers. Yeah, these controllers. And we have some retro controllers around, because again, it's a retro Pi thing. So we have some retro controllers around. And most of these are just USB controllers, so they can just plug into your USB area and do that. And again, if you're an online student or something, you can often just use a whatever controller you have on your Xbox or your PlayStation or something like that for that. And we have, you can, so the ROMs are kind of borderline illegal-ish. There's some copyright violations and stealing ROMs from cartridges. If you're owning the cartridge, it's not a big deal, but most of the companies don't worry about these ROMs for consoles that are 20 years old and stuff like that, because no one really is running those consoles anymore, or they're not selling them. So there's not, you can have a pretty good copyright argument from an educational point of view, fair use, that the company's not losing any revenue because the company's not selling those games anymore. So certainly any these games that are not for sale, haven't been for sale for decades, are good options for this. And there's a lot of that. You know, they're all weird. My son and I were just reminiscing about Mario Kart, the old classic Mario Karts, because again, you know, the new Mario Karts has been out. So the old classic Mario Karts are out there. And again, the old ones are still fun to play and things like that. They show the Sonic, Sonic 2. Well, I won't go right. The good old days. Okay, so you can do that. And again, we have from past classes a collection of ROMs that are available on a drive. So you don't have to go out and find ROMs. You can find some ROMs, but we have a whole big collection of ROMs if you want to use those for that. So this network storage box is. But before I get there, I'll just mention, I think, and I didn't know you could do this. One of these, this was mentioning, see, this was RetroPie. I was just looking at what AI was recommending: RetroPie, a home media center, a Pi hole here. This one was recommending a Pi switch. I've not seen that. So I'm thinking that's running a retro Pi and making it look like a switch sort of idea here with a portable console. I'm not sure what they're using. If yeah, those look like. Okay. So this is a remote network device. You can actually buy, these network-based storage solutions. I don't know if you have them, but again, you can buy one of these. So it's like I have one at a nonprofit I help with in their offices. We just have this. It's plugged into the internet there, and then there's 4 machines in the nonprofit's office. They can all access this network stored device as a shared drive. It's basically a shared drive. You can have it, and again, some people have these in their homes. So that's a shared drive. Anyone on your network at home can access and store these shared drives there. But again, there might be $100, and you can just buy a hard drive and connect a Pi up to it and configure your own version of that for this. So we have had people work with their car, not these little cars, but their actual cars on this sort of stuff and work with that. We've had students do internet radio. You can do some stuff where you can configure, and again, often you need some additional device there, a tuner, but you can tune in different radio frequencies and do a scanner, so you can scan lots of radio frequencies and things like that. Often those are going beyond just the traditional AM and FM, giving kind of into that ham radio or emergency radio frequencies and that sort of scanning sort of stuff. So if you're familiar with that or interested in that sort of stuff, we can do that stuff. Security systems or pet cams, baby cams. So again, you can buy simple cameras here, and we have, I think, maybe like 4 of them here. So this is like just a little camera that would connect to the Pi. It comes with a ribbon. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the ribbon, I'm just going to switch this to stop sharing so I can see. Okay, so then you can probably see this. So this comes with a little ribbon on the camera. And that ribbon will plug into your Pi. So I don't know if we really haven't talked about, but there are these couple places on your Pi where there's a little thing you can push and you can slide in a ribbon there. Down here, and then have this connect up to it there. Now, there are different versions of Pi have and different size ribbons. They've actually changed these on the Pis, unfortunately, recently. But so some of them will have bigger ribbons and some will have different ribbons. But if you buy these, a lot of them now will come with multiple, like this one will come with multiple adaptable ribbons. So they'll say this will work with a Pi 5 or a Pi 4 or a Pi 0 there. That has 3 different ribbon connections for that. And we have a number of ribbons. So we probably have cameras that can connect up to most of your devices there. As far as security systems, again, you can set up a camera, like a motion detector that'll do something when something happens. You can also set up these kind of home automation servers or sensors. We have a bunch of sensors out there. I think we have, what do we have? So like these are just basic motion sensors here. Oops. Go back. So these are just basic motion sensors that'll plug in or you can wire up. And then again, whenever something walks by or moves, you can do something. So for security systems, sometimes that helps. If you remember when we did our sensor labs, we have lots of sensors here. So some people just like to do a project like a water sensor. My brother, a month ago, he has a second home. He's a physician and he does surgery in 2 different towns. So he has a second home where he does surgery. And he showed up at that town, at that second home, and tried to open his door. There was ice outflowing outside of his door. He opened it up, and there's 2 inches of water in his house because one of his connections to his washing machine burst, and for a week it had just been flooding his house full of water there. So a lot of people, and he will probably after this, will buy water sensors that'll put down, and it will send you an email if they detect water, or shut something off when they detect water. So there's home automation things like that that you can do here. You can run a simple web server, access Raspberry Pis, stuff like that. So again, here's links. These are actually out there. I would just do some searching here to some of these websites for these. We also have a number of displays. I don't remember what kind of displays we have. So like we have this little display. We have a couple of these little LED, displays that you can connect up. This is actually a cool little light display. We had a student, this is made for Raspberry Pi, and it's 8x8 matrix of lights you can turn on, and you can do simple pixel art or fun little things with that. So we have that available. Someone did that, I think, last year. Yeah, right? For that here. So keep that in mind. Now, some people like to build here this, and I've been wanting someone to do more of this, but you can build a RetroPie kind of console table or something like that, where you have these buttons. So we have, can you hold up some of the actual buttons? We have some box there with some actual buttons in it. So yeah, we have actual physical buttons, so you can build a console. So we have these sorts of buttons, and the old style control, joystick kind of control. So if you wanted to do something like that, we could do that. Some of them require access to like a laser cutter, but we have access to a laser cutter, so we can cut, if we have a plan, we can cut it out of plywood and assemble it. So there's different objects we have. Something we don't mention, but I've seen done, is the magic mirror. So it just takes a mirror and puts a Raspberry Pi screen behind it, so that, like, the idea is in the morning when you're getting up, getting ready, your mirror can be like a touchscreen, or at least display information like today's weather and your calendar schedule and stuff like that on your mirror, sort of stuff. I actually have someone doing an advanced weather station as an independent study project right now. You'll probably see that in the showcase. He's doing a lot of different weather things, but we have simple temperature and things like that we have. So if you want to just do a basic weather station, you can do that here. We have, if you want to move things, we have some basic things. So we have what are called servos. Some of you may have done those when we did the sensor lab. So we have servos that you can move back and forth there. We also have an arm. Can you hold up the arm? So this is just 3 servos connected together, so 4, so you can actually program that. That would be a little more complicated, but again, we have options for that. Okay. So again, look through this, Google some ideas. Again, consider that. Think of what hardware. Ask us if you're on campus what you want. If you're off campus, let us know, and we can brainstorm ideas for that. But your job now is to come up with a list of, fill out this project review matrix. So you want to make a copy. You want to list 3 different project ideas there, and then which one you think you want to do. So do that by Sunday. So we'll let you work on that. You can come around and explore these ideas. Oh, what did you two do for your projects or project?
So the same example that Tom showed, but instead of doing, I think was Sonic an example, or did Mario Kart? Yeah, was this one.
Okay, so yeah, you have a portable version of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The controllers that you can connect to the portable screen, and then the virtual pie game.
Yeah. That was pretty straightforward. I think
Yeah.
virtual pie is pretty straightforward. So, okay. And then at the end of the semester, we have a CIS showcase. You may have been at the showcase in December. So it's just a kind of celebration where we have pizza and all the computer students get together and show off their projects there. So all the students in this class will show off their projects. The CS principals class will show off their apps. And then some of the advanced classes will show off what they've been doing also. So you'll get to show it off then. All right, I'll be quiet and let you decide what to do. Stop this recording.